For more than 5,000 years, human civilization trusted one thing above all else: gold. A metal so precious, empires killed for it. A metal so rare, it anchored currencies and crowned kings. A metal so untouchable, people believed it could never fail. But there was a moment quiet, almost invisible, when gold lost its throne. A moment when the world abandoned the one asset it thought was immovable and replaced it with something far more fragile, far more powerful, and far more dangerous. This new wealth wasn't mined from the earth. It was printed out of thin air. Today, almost nobody remembers the exact moment it happened, but everything from inflation, to national debt, to financial crises, to the cost of your groceries can be traced back to this turning point. And the real mystery isn't just why gold was dethroned, but who orchestrated it, and what they replaced it with. Stay with me, B. Because once you understand this moment, you'll never see money the same way again. To understand the fall of gold, we need to journey back to the age when money was simple, far simpler than today's tangled web of credit, derivatives, digital balances, and central bank policies. Back then, money was physical, weighty, tangible. If you held a gold coin, it was the value. No promises, no algorithms, no hidden mechanisms behind the scenes. By the late 19th and early 20th century, the world had built something remarkable. The gold standard, a global financial system where every major currency was pegged to gold. Nations could not print more money than the gold they held. It was disciplined by physics. But discipline is a funny thing. Politicians hate it because it limits their power. And history shows when money and power collide, money loses. As countries industrialized, as wars expanded, as banks grew more complex, cracks began forming in the gold system. It became too rigid for the ambitions of nations, too slow for the pace of modern economics, and too restrictive for the people who most wanted control over money. The stage was set. The world was waiting for a breaking point. And that moment when gold would lose its throne was approaching faster than anyone realized. For centuries, gold wasn't just wealth, it defined wealth. Ancient Egyptian pharaohs hoarded it. Roman emperors stabilized empires with it. Medieval kings waged wars for it. In every culture, on every continent, gold meant trust. It was resistant to corrosion, rare enough to be valuable, and impossible to fake. So when modern nations created paper money, they knew it had no value on its own. Paper burns. Paper tears. Paper can be printed infinitely. To convince people to trust it, governments made a promise. Every bill could be exchanged for gold at a fixed rate. This single promise turned paper into power. And with that promise, governments gained the ability to wage bigger wars, build bigger economies, and borrow more money, all backed by the idea that gold always sat in the vault, waiting. But this promise would eventually be tested and broken. By the early 20th century, the gold standard had created something extraordinary: stability. Prices barely moved for decades. Countries could trade with confidence. Investors could store wealth without fear of manipulation. But beneath the surface, pressures were building. Growing economies needed more money, but gold supply grew slowly. Banks wanted to lend more, but gold limited credit. Governments wanted to spend more, especially during wars. World War I was the first major shock. Nations needed to finance unprecedented levels of military spending. Many quietly suspended their gold promises. It was temporary, they said. A necessary measure. They promised gold would return, but wars rarely return what they take. The gold system survived WWI, but not intact. The world that emerged was hungrier, more ambitious, and more financially experimental. The Great Depression hit next. Banks collapsed. Currencies deflated. People hoarded gold. Governments panicked. In 1933, U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt made a decision that stunned the nation. He outlawed private gold ownership and forced citizens to sell their gold to the government. Why? To give the government more control over the money supply. Another crack in gold's armor. The world was still using gold, but the system was becoming increasingly artificial. And after World War II, it would be reshaped entirely. After World War II, leaders met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to rebuild the global financial system. They created a new structure. Every currency would be pegged to the US dollar, and the dollar would be backed by gold. The US became the world's banker. The dollar became the world's trust. But there was a flaw one everyone ignored. The US could print dollars far faster than it could acquire gold. As global trade expanded, more countries held US dollars, and those dollars were redeemable for a fixed amount of American gold. By the 1960s, US spending exploded first from social programs, then from the Vietnam War. Dollars flooded the world. But America's gold reserves remained the same. Foreign nations began to panic. They realized the US had printed far more dollars than it could ever convert to gold. So, they did the logical thing. They started asking for their gold back. Gold drained from US vaults. Shipments left almost weekly, and on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on television and made an announcement that would change the world forever. He ended the ability to convert dollars into gold. The promise was gone. The tie was cut. The gold standard after thousands of years was dead. In a single stroke, gold lost its throne, and a new form of wealth was born. Money backed not by metal, but by trust. Or perhaps more accurately, by the government's ability to print, borrow, and control. The world woke up on August 16th to something unprecedented. Currencies that floated freely and anchored for the first time in modern history. What followed was chaos. Inflation surged. Interest rates spiked. Oil prices skyrocketed. The 1970s became a decade of stagflation, high inflation, low growth, and economic confusion. But something else happened. Governments discovered a new superpower. Without gold, money could be printed infinitely. Debt could grow infinitely. Banks could lend infinitely. And they did. From the 1980s onward, global debt began to rise, and it has never stopped. Today, world debt is more than 360% of global GDP, a number impossible under a gold system. The economy became more complex, more sensitive, and more vulnerable. Gold didn't disappear, but its era, as the foundation of the world's money system, was over. Since 1971, governments and central banks have been trying to control a system that no longer has natural limits. They tried raising interest rates. They tried cutting interest rates. They introduced new regulations, then removed them. They bailed out banks. Then they bailed out countries. Then they printed more money to fix the problems created by printing money. The 1997 Asian financial crisis. The 2000 dot-com bubble. The 2008 financial crisis. The 2020 pandemic stimulus shock. Each crisis exposed the same weakness. When money is unlimited, mistakes are unlimited too, and the consequences compound. But the most dangerous part, the public became used to it, debt became normal, inflation became normal. The idea that money can be created from nothing became normal. The world forgot the moment it all changed. But the effects never stopped. Today, we're living in a world that looks eerily similar to the final years of the gold system, but with one critical difference: there is no anchor left to hold us back. Consider this: over 80% of all US dollars in existence were created in just the last 20 years. Global inflation surged to multi-decade highs in the early 2020s. More than 60% of Americans now live paycheck to paycheck. Housing prices have risen faster in the last 10 years than in the previous 50. Combine these aren't random trends. They're the predictable result of a system where money is unlimited and trust is the only foundation. End history shows what happens when trust disappears. Every empire, every currency, every financial system, Greek, Roman, Chinese, British, collapsed. Not when gold ran out, but when trust ran out. And today, once again, the world is asking uncomfortable questions. How long can unlimited money last? What happens when debt becomes unpayable? What will replace the system when the next breaking point comes? And here's the twist. The next global wealth shift may already be forming. Maybe in digital currencies. Maybe in commodities. Maybe in technologies we haven't yet understood. Gold lost its throne in 1971. The question now is, what will lose its throne next? 3 takeaways and a warning. So what should we learn from the moment gold was dethroned? Takeaway 1. All financial systems are temporary. Even one that lasted thousands of years collapsed almost overnight. Takeaway 2. Money is only as strong as the trust behind it. When trust cracks, whether through inflation, debt, or political instability, the entire system shakes. Takeaway 3. Every major wealth shift creates winners and losers. Those who saw the shift in 1971 positioned themselves for decades of opportunity. Those who didn't paid the price through inflation, stagnating wages, and lost savings. The next financial turning point may not look dramatic. It may not involve a president on television. It may happen quietly, through digital code, new currencies, or geopolitical realignments. But it will happen. And when it does, those who understand the past will recognize the moment instantly. If you found this story eye-opening, and you want to understand the forces shaping money, power, and the next global wealth shift, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. Your support helps us bring more in-depth investigations just like this one. And remember, money changes, power shifts, but those who pay attention never get left behind.